Just a word here about step-down rings. Step-down rings are rings that allow you to repurpose one camera filter or another by stepping it down to fit a smaller lens, or vice versa, step up. Otherwise, you need an expensive filter such as a polarizer for each size lens diameter you might have. So typically, the smart move is to buy filters in the largest size, say 77 millimeters, and then just use one filter with a series of step-down rings to fit the rest of your lenses. This is something you have to do just once. Another thing that I like are bubble levels, or any kind of leveling process. For some camera work like panoramic heads, it's very important to level your tripod, and it gets even more so when you get into video. Trying to level a tripod by adjusting the legs is kind of an exercise in futility. It's a never-ending process. Some tripods have a half ball that replaces a column. These are what you find in video tripods. So you can instantly adjust them by moving the ball around underneath the tripod. But most of us doing macro work don't have that style of tripod because they're mostly only in video tripods. Then there are all kinds of leveling heads that fit between the top base of your tripod and your camera base underneath your ball head. These can be heavy and awkward. I find the easiest way to level a camera is by using a standard ball head that either has a level built into it or place one of those little tiny plastic bubble levels in the camera hot shoe, where a flash attachment should go. Once you have any kind of level on a ball head, it's child's play just to quickly level the thing. Another thing just to mention, LED flashlights. Many photographers carry one of these small, very sophisticated now, LED flashlights like those made by Phoenix. I have a couple of them. One of them that just takes one single AA battery and is very compact. And I even purchased a tiny diffuser that fits on the end of the lens and then flips on and off. So you might wonder, what are these good for? I don't use them a lot. I use them on rare occasions to shed a little extra light on the subject. At those times, I wish I had another arm, and it's best to hold the flashlight quite far back, unless it has a diffuser ring. I also have a flashlight that diffuses so that you can make it more concentrated or more wide circle of light. A little light means a lot, which is why I don't generally use a flash. I don't like the invasive look that a flash brings to a natural subject, but a tiny bit of backlight through a leaf or flower, or a tiny beam in the eye of something, just gently, is helpful from time to time. And let's talk about UV filters. Now, this is something it's like, I've been in the music business for a long time, and maybe the oldest argument on the internet is to decide whether Kenny G, the jazz artist, is jazz or not. People have argued about it for years. So it's almost the same thing with should we or should we not use UV filters. I mean, have something covering our lenses to protect them. So I kind of like the argument that why put a cheap piece of glass on a $1,000 or $2,000 lens? It can't help but degrade the performance. All of the best pro photographers, or many of them that I follow, don't use these prophylactic filters. But I'm pretty conservative that way. I kind of still use them. Not in the studio, but out in the meadows and the fields and the streams. For one, I'm nervous and I hate cleaning lenses or touching them at all. So no matter what you say, sooner or later, dirt, specks, dust, pollen, goo is going to get on the front of your lenses. Just because you're a pro doesn't mean you don't get any of that. Still, for the most part, I use UV or clear lens filters on my most expensive lenses. I know I shouldn't do it, but I do. Now, polarizers. Polarizers are helpful in removing the shine that you see in tree leaves or the specular highlights on lakes, waves, running water, snow. I have them in various sizes, but for some reason I seldom use it. Maybe mostly because I'm not shooting that kind of stuff. I'm shooting in a dark little glen of leaves and flowers and stuff like that. There are very few specular highlights. So anyway, I don't tend to shoot the kind of light that polarizers are designed for. I'm a seeker of shadows and very even light, not bright light. Which brings me to the whole idea of lens cloths. Do you need them? Well, we all hate to touch our lenses, which is why so many of us use these filters. Let those filters just get dirty. We can always buy another filter. But if we scratch the lens, there's not any kind of remedy. Still, you need something around that those in charge tell us is safe to touch the lenses with. These microfiber cloths are easy to come by, and various products keep giving me free ones. But how do I know that once I've used these cloths, they have not picked up some piece of sand or something that will scratch the lens next time I use it? Well, I don't. So I buy packets of certified lens cleaning tissue by Tiffin or at Adorama. They have them. And what I use most are called Pec-Pads, P-E-C-P-A-D-S, and they come in 100 in a package, each 4 by 4 inch square. You use one and you throw it away. You don't put it on the shelf because you can't see anything wrong with it and then use it again. But I do, which is really stupid of me. You should just toss it out. There are dozens of lens cleaning tutorials on the internet. Just Google for how to clean a camera lens and then read carefully. There are also some bonehead tutorials out there, stupid ways to do it, like breathing on your lens and stuff like that. Don't do that. That's, who knows what you're blowing on the lens. So just a word about velvet. If you're doing a lot of studio still life photos, pick up a piece of black velvet, a yard or so wide or square, just to have around. It makes great, almost invisible backgrounds for bright, shiny things. It absorbs light so thoroughly that it's just a huge help if you're having to do tabletop or product photography. Say just a couple words about lens resolution tests. If you want to test the sharpness of your lens, you can download and print out, or you can take it to Staples, a test chart, pin it to the wall, light it, and take some extra shots. One such free test chart can be found here. I've tried these lens tests. I'm just not a lens tester. I respect the guys and gals that are, but and the last thing, I just can't, I'm just no good at. I can't see enough to make a decision. So this is something I'm just telling you about, I don't know about. What about these light boxes you can pick up on eBay for almost nothing? If you're shooting objects in the studio, and if you don't have the budget for some fancy lights, you can just pick up a light box on eBay for pennies, $30 for a whole kit. Light boxes or soft boxes are collapsible cubes made out of translucent white cloth in which you can place whatever you want to photograph. They diffuse light from all directions and give you a very soft light, removing most of the specular highlights. I not only use them in the studio, but I cut the bottom out of them and I use them in the field to cut the wind. Here in Michigan, remember that Michigan was scraped flat by a glacier, so when winds blow, they just are free to blow here. So sometimes I want to photograph something even in the wind, so I take one of these little light boxes out and put it over the flower and take photos. I'll have a whole little thing on that, but I'm just talking about here. Another little point is screwdrivers that are used in repairing and fixing camera gear. I'm not talking about big screwdrivers. I'm talking about very, very fine screws. It's important to know that most Japanese camera gear does not simply take any old Phillips screwdriver, so please take note. It took me a while to figure this out. They use instead what are called JIS Type S screwdrivers. You can find them online on eBay and Amazon, so think ahead and pick up a little pack of them now. I had to do it all every way but loose. I had to go backward. I tried everything and couldn't find any screwdriver that would fit. Lens caps. To me, not all lens caps are equal. Even some very expensive lenses come with crappy caps, and I just throw them in a drawer. I have a whole drawer of them. What you need, or what I need, is what's called an inner pinch cap, or just pinch caps. They're inexpensive, and I find it worthwhile to replace all of the caps that I have that demand that you pinch the outer edges of the lens cap in order to remove it. I replace them with inner pinch caps. It's much easier to use and keep your fingers away from the lens. Trying to reach in through a long hood and get your fingers around the edge of a lens cap, not a good thing. Now I have to warn you, there's a rant coming. And the rant's about all of these articulated arms that are supposed to help you. They're called McClamps or Plamps. There are any number of articulated arms out there available with a clip of some sort on each end. One end clamps on your tripod and the other one holds a filter or holds up a diffuser. They give you that extra arm, or supposed to hold a reflector or whatever you want to use. Simple problem is most of them are not very strong, certainly not strong enough to hold even a small 12-inch diffuser up in front of a light or flash. Believe me, I bought all of them. I have a whole stack of them all clipped to a bookcase, but they're worthless. I purchased both the McClamp and the Plamp, and neither were strong enough to do anything worthwhile. I even purchased the lock light segments themselves, these little things that the clamps are made out of, and I made my own little arms, but they were still of no real strength. I clamped them to my tripod, to chairs, to bookcases, and they do hold their own weight, which is, they get no awards from me for that, but nothing I asked them to hold beyond that was held without sagging down at least some. As mentioned, the smallest diffuser that I really use is a 12-inch round diffuser. It weighs almost nothing, but even that was too heavy to be held up. So what good are they? I have absolutely no use for them. But I will tell you what I do use. What I do use are a bunch of what are called long nose clamps. That means that they're wide at the back and narrow at the front, so they can reach around, something and then still clamp. I buy them, maybe they're 5 inches long or so. I buy them in little buckets of 40 at a time. I must have 80 of them around here, and I use them for everything. They're absolutely great. Next up, Allen wrenches. Things that attach to camera bodies, such as L brackets, various tripod heads, flash extenders, release plates, and all kinds of other equipment are fastened by Allen wrenches. So it's helpful to have a set. I always and the most important thing is always carry the one that you need to tighten your L bracket or whatever you carry with you in the field as in your kit bag, because one of the most unpleasant experiences is being 2 miles out in the woods and having the L bracket or something similar suddenly come loose. There's just no way of tightening it. So most of these quick release plates and come with these little tiny Allen wrenches with them. I have dozens of them. Just throw one in your little camera bag so that you always have it with you. Another thing that took me a while to figure out is what happens if you have a stuck filter. A stuck filter means something on the front of your lens that you've screwed in that now suddenly won't screw off. It seems like it's becomes seamlessly molded into the lens. So you have to look to see, is there even a filter there? But there is. And occasionally I screw in a filter of one kind or another, and the thing gets stuck, and somehow it's wedged in there. Nothing is worse than a lens that has a tiny close-up filter on it, and then on top of that is a stuck UV filter. You can't get your hands on both rings to get enough leverage. Wrapping a rubber band around each gives you some traction, but not always enough. So there is one trick that is just an incredible thing that someone pointed out to me, and it's worked every time, and it's the following. Find a flat piece of hard rubber like the sole of a shoe, and I have actually used the sole of a shoe. Place the stuck filter flat against the hard surface and just turn gently. You usually don't even have to apply much strength. The stuck filter just turns and comes right off. Oh, super magnets. You don't need this unless you plan to take your camera apart, or particularly a lens apart, in which case you might want to have a few of these around. They're called, and I won't be able to pronounce this right, but neodymium disc magnets. And there's some kind of rare earth materials in them, but they're super strong. I mean, stronger than I ever imagined a magnet could be. And what they are good for is you attach the magnet to your tiny screwdriver shaft so that when you finally unscrew something, that something will cling to the screwdriver as opposed to falling deep inside whatever you're taking apart, like a lens. Just imagine that. You don't want a teeny tiny screw that you almost can't see lost somewhere inside your lens or your camera body. I never thought I needed these until I started disassembling lens parts to change mounts and whatnot, at which point they became indispensable. And, otherwise it's just worry, worry, worry. Another thing that I really depend upon a lot and that you really should be aware of is what's called Threadlocker. A perennial problem is at the base of the ball head, when it's screwed on to the top of the tripod with a 3/8 inch screw, it somehow loosens in the field sometimes. This is very annoying. There is a solution. That's to buy a tube of Threadlocker and apply the Threadlocker to the tripod screw and to the thread in the base of the ball head. Threadlocker makes it very difficult, but not impossible, to remove the ball head from the top of the tripod. It's not going to happen to you any longer when you're miles out in the field somewhere. It's just a heartbreaker when it does. I leave my ball head permanently on the tripod, so Threadlocker is a great help. There's no more need to worry about it coming loose until I want it to be loose. And while we're on this odds and ends here, talk about some other tools that help. For older folks like me, a good folding lawn chair is a big help. If I'm just in my backyard or something, I can just sit out there, get quiet, watch the insects and stuff start to move again. It's very comfortable. Also, perhaps a good magnifying glass, because many of the mini dramas are at least as interesting as the more obvious larger dramas. In my case, I like to do macro or close-up photography, so I have some incredible lenses that let me see exactly what's going on out there, so kind of up close and personal. And, I don't always go many miles out in the bush anymore, in the brush. My own backyard, which I've allowed just to grow, is a wonderful place to observe much of the time. There are also some nice nature parks close to me that I can drive to and wander in. And the local cemetery is perhaps my favorite place of all. Up near the edges of it where it goes wild, there are tons of shrubs and flowers where all kinds of insects hang out. And this same cemetery ends in a wonderful open field with paths that I can take if things aren't too wet. I can always walk along the mowed edges of the cemetery and then kind of peer and look and photograph into the field next to it. I do make special trips from time to time to one nature sanctuary or another, and those are fun too, but most days it's, for me, very local, like just outside my back door. And the change in perspective achieved through all of this is gradual and slow. What I have to do when I go outside is let my mind rest a bit. Kind of let the nature just kind of come back into activity. And it doesn't happen all at once. It takes time. So it's kind of an investment in reality. But it's one that I find more than worth the effort. Check it out. Something that's been important to me is how do I store all of these photo accessories that I've accumulated? literally hundreds of them. Once you start buying cameras, lenses, tripods, and whatnot, you accumulate all kinds of pieces and parts and things that you don't dare lose. For years I stuck them in this drawer or that, and then later, when it was obvious to me that it was out of control, I tried to store them each within their individual original package. But of course I promptly forgot all about them, where I put them, and I never saw them again. I even kept buying some of these things again and again, so something wasn't working. But here's what does work for me. Go to your nearest Home Depot or Lowe's and pick up a few of those carry-around plastic organizers as shown here. They're just perfect. I have at least 10 or more of them full, and the best part is I can actually find stuff when I need it. I store everything that will fit in them: wrenches, tapes, cleaning stuff, eyepieces, filters, caps, magnets, mirrors, extra parts, remotes, tubes, extensions, polarizers, close-up lenses, larger lenses, teleconverters, everything. And I even have one case that's just for flash stuff. Everything is safe and findable. Plus I can carry them around anywhere I wish. If you have too many small parts, give these cases a look. I also went out and bought a little label maker, and I just stick labels on the various bins so I can look immediately, see exactly what I want to find.